success of The Best Man, how soon did you start thinking sequel? When are you trying to do another one?
You know, there were a lot of people, fans, people behind the scenes who were saying, oh, we should do a sequel to the movie, we should do a sequel to a television show. I didn't want to do anything too soon. I wanted to be able to tell other stories. And I didn't want to pigeonhole myself. And frankly, with sequels, they're tough just because people have such high expectations for them, and then when they come out, second one comes out, it's kind of like, well, it's not as good as the first. So I would say around, I had the idea to do something, and I was, you know, I'd like to revisit these characters maybe like 10 years later, once they've lived some life, once I've lived some life, and I have something more to say about, you know, what we're doing. Because, you know, when you think about stuff in your mid-20s, it's different than when you think about your mid to late 30s. And so I wanted the characters to evolve and different things. So around 2005, I came up, you know, with an idea, and I've seen all these guys throughout the years.
Had you been keeping in touch?
We'd see each other, you know, here and there, and you know, auditions or whatever, or just do parties or whatever.
Right.
And I said, no, I'm thinking about doing a sequel, and it was always like, oh, yeah, you know, it's a good idea. So now I was always the one to say, it's got to be about the script. It's got to be about the script. If the script says this is good, then bring it.
So now you had all these discussions before, but you were thinking, I would think, once you make something so great, just let it be. Because you don't want to mess up the memory of it.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, why do you want to do something this long? This many years later. But it was a really fun night. He invited us all to BOA in Beverly Hills. People from LA know where that is.
Wait, also, we were a very expensive dinner.
Yes.
He said he was never taking us.
And we were just so excited to see each other because we're all friends. So it was like a reunion.
It was all
Can you imagine if you had walked in the restaurant and saw all of them together? You would have been like, let me put this on Twitter right now. Sequel.
That's what I would have thought.
The drinks started flowing, the food was coming, and he started to pitch the movie. And basically, he pitched it literally moment by moment, scene by scene. At first, I was like, this is not going to work. We're kind of tipsy. We're not going to really be able to pay attention. But within 5 minutes, we were on the edge of our seats. Literally, like we were watching the movie. And by the end of the pitch, we were like, okay, no, please write this, write it. We will all be on board. And
So you could have made the deal right
well,
there
he
at
wanted us to
home.
be all on board before we put all this time and effort
And
into
also,
writing.
we had to convince the studio to make this movie. There was no green light before this dinner. This was get everybody. He had a very unique way of approaching this. It was completely unorthodox because it's usually the other way around. It's usually, you know, the director has the green light with the script and then we're the last to know.
Right.
He actually came to us and he became a part of, you know, championing the process, which was completely different from anything we've ever done.
Right, Morris, what had to be in place for you to say yes?
The money. No. No, you know what? It was just, I think once we got together at that dinner and just all of us being there in the same place at the same time, it was just a good feeling, it was just a good vibe. And that just made me just want to do it more. But, you know, just being in this industry, you have a lot of disappointments. You know, people come to you all the time, I got this great script, it's a go, and you don't hear from them again.
Right.
So the main thing was just to be, you know, just be optimistic and cautious about being optimistic. And once we got the call, it was a green light, and everybody was excited.
Okay. Doesn't the trailer look great? So you didn't put all the other parts in the trailer, right?
No.
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 A lot more?
Lots of funny moments, lots of
Lots of sex,
emotional
lots
moments.
So Leah, not you, right?
You know, Jordan's a little prude. She's not.
Jordan gets down.
Let's go back to the original movie, Best Man. How how tough was it for you to actually get that movie made?
It wasn't, I always say describe the movie as the right script at the right time. You know, the movies that preceded it, like Love Jones. Love Jones, Waiting to Exhale, Soul Food. These are movies that you know, showed African Americans in a light that was truer to what I had been seeing in cinema. So I said, well, you know, when Soul Food was on the rise, I said, if I can time the script and be ready for when it's successful, and I write the next Soul Food, quote unquote, they'll be ready to make the movie.
So you were watching what Soul Food was doing?
Well, you know, I was timing it so that, like, because that's how this business works.
Yeah.
You know, in success, they want to make more of the same thing.
Right.
The same thing happened on this movie. Now, we met in January of 2011, and they had that dinner, which I paid for, by the way.
Very expensive.
Cheap. It was Morris, and he says, you know, it was the money. He said, after everybody's like, okay, we're gonna do it, Morris was like, okay, so what's the next step? How are we doing this? So I said, look, we have to wait until Jump in the Broom comes out, see how that movie does. And he was like, we don't need them, we don't need it. And he said, that might be true, but it will prove to the studios that black people want to go see movies about successful black people. And then, you know, let me perform. About 4 years ago, there were a few black movies that didn't perform, and they said, no more black movies, forget it. Black people don't want to see them, they don't travel internationally, forget it, don't even bother. So
That's when I had my children, by the way.
and so, you know, you wait for something like that to perform, and then with the success of Think Like a Man, it's like, okay, this could be not only a good movie, but very profitable. So we said, okay, we timed it. And I pitched to the studio, and they were all board, but of course, for a price, you know. Nobody up here, nobody did it for the money. They did it for the love of the movie. But anyway, it is true. There's a lot of love. It's like I equate to being like a family reunion and saying, you know, there are times where like the family gets on your nerves.
Oh no, I was the biggest pain in the I'm just gonna hold that.
Well, and listen, everybody has their moments. And it's like, absolutely, because out of all that kind of chaos and conflict and, you know, in collaboration comes a great product, and I think we've got something great.
Right, and also just what you were saying about, so go support black movies. You guys still want to see good product coming up.
Support black movies.
Good. I'm not saying that.
Leah, let's talk about where you were in your career when you first auditioned the Best Man. What was happening in your life and your career at that time?
Well, I did an audition. We had, which, you know, that means nothing except for in that moment, because we all have to go out and fight for what we want. You can get an offer one day and you could get 10 auditions the next day. It just depends on the project. But I think it was a time in my career. It was Love Jones, it was Soul Food, there was a lot going on, and I read the script, I loved the script. And I met with Malcolm. I liked Malcolm. We had lunch, I think it was, or breakfast, someplace in New York. And pretty much after that, it was a done deal, you know. And actually, Jordan was a different character for me to play because she was sort of buttoned up, uptight, very business. And playing her again and seeing how she's grown in the last, you know, just assume 15 years. It's not really 15 years, it's great time. Right. It's not. So, but just how she's, let's just say no, because I'm only 27. And seeing how she's grown was great because this is what all of you women experience. You see yourself at a certain age, and then you evolve in your career, you start to have have children, you start to deal with relationships, and we all realize that we're all going through the same stuff. And I think that's what's so great about this film, because each one of these characters, somebody in this audience can relate to. That's why you loved it the first time, and hopefully, as we've matured and we've, gotten more successful or not, she's knocked up, having children, that you'll feel the same way.